All right, everybody. I am very excited to be speaking today with Dr. William Lee. He is a physician, a scientist, and the president and medical director of the Angiogenesis Foundation. He's also the author of a book you may have heard of called Eat to Beat Disease. It's a book that has been on our shelf for the years that we've been in the cancer realm, and it really helped us have an understanding of a better understanding of both food and disease, and how those two can relate to each other in both negative ways, but really in positive ways, and how food can be seen and used as medicine. So, Dr. Lee, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you, Jameson. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's dive in. I'd really like to just talk to you about the book itself, and some of the stuff that's in it that stood out to us, but also just the story behind it. So maybe getting us started, and this is maybe a pretty open-ended question, but why did you write this book? Like, what was the passion that brought you to this?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because I never set out to be an author. I really didn't have a particular ambition to write a book, but a little bit about me. I'm a physician, internal medicine. So that means I take care of men and women, young and old, healthy and sick. And my personal goal has always been to keep people healthy. And yet, being trained as a doctor, we're really taught to diagnose illness and then to write prescriptions and do referrals and chase that illness to wherever it's going to take us or take a patient. And I always felt that my personal goal as a doctor was to really get people who are sick back onto solid footing, back to health. And so the goal wasn't to keep on prescribing and keep on referring, this idea of chronic disease. My idea is, what can we actually do to kind of get people back on their feet and feeling like they can actually go on and live their vibrant lives? Well,
Sure.
that actually sounds a lot easier as a statement than it actually was, because in fact, the whole medical establishment is geared towards disease, not health, even in cancer. And so, for years, we are taught as doctors in medical school to define a disease. What's breast cancer? What's colon cancer? What's pancreatic cancer? What's diabetes? What's obesity? What's Alzheimer's? And we've got really great answers for all of those. Most of us give a pretty much the same answer accurately, but a much harder question is to ask, what is health?
Sure.
And we would ask a doctor, what is health? And by the way, health is, and this is the key, health is a lot more than the absence of disease.
Right.
And the reason that's so important to figure out what it is that something desirable that is the absence of something else. It's like saying peace is the absence of war. I mean,
Right.
You don't know what to do with that. So
Right.
for me, I set out with science to try to figure out, well, what is health? How do we answer that question? And that really kind of took me on this long journey, both through biotechnology as well as through looking at food as medicine, where I am today. But something that I was really interested in is how the body normally resists disease. So, this is Cancer Box. So let's talk about cancer. Anyone who is grappling with cancer, whether it's the common ones, colon cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, skin cancer. All right. The question that everyone always mulls on after they receive that diagnosis is, well, why did I get it? What did I do? And I'll tell you how I think about it as somebody who's been kind of called a cancer warrior. The question actually is not just why did you get cancer, but even more profoundly, why don't we all get cancer more often?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that actually gets at how we actually remain healthy.
Yeah.
Kids do get cancer, but rarely. Okay. Middle-aged people, as you get more, you get more and more cancer until you get elderly. And then once you get really old, you don't get that much cancer anymore. So what is it about our body that actually resists cancer? And this led me to this whole idea of the body's health defense systems. We're going to talk about angiogenesis, which is one of the things that I do. But angiogenesis is how the body grows blood vessels. And it turns out that in the biotechnology world, if we can restore the body's ability to control blood vessels, then cancers cannot be fed. So I started to realize that, well, if bad abnormal blood vessels feed cancers, could we cut off the blood supply? Answer: with biotechnology, yes. There are over a dozen biotech drugs. I've been involved with every single one of them.
Yep.
And they're really important for some cancer patients, for kidney cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, brain cancer.
Yep.
However,
Rachel's been on Avastin.
yeah,
We're on Ceremza right now. Yeah. Yeah. We're
but
familiar.
I will tell you, the one thing I realized with all the successes I've had with cancer drug development was realizing that, number one, that preventing the disease was the biggest opportunity of them all, not just
Mm.
treatment but prevention. And if somebody's gotten through their first treatment and they're in remission, that, congratulations. Now let's just wait and see what happens for 5 years.
Right.
What I realized is that with that time, we could use the same science that led
Mm.
to drugs like Avastin in order to be able to inform people what they should eat that might work in the same way that medicines do. And that's how I basically, took off my lab coat and put on my gardener's outfit to
Sure.
realize that Mother Nature has created her own pharmacy, not with a PH, but with an F for
Mm.
farm. And that by using the same science and using the same test systems that we use for drug development, instead of throwing in Avastin, we throw in celery or soy
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes. Then you can really begin studying food as medicine. And when I started to see over and over again the power of food in interfering with some of those hallmarks of cancer that pharmaceutical companies have been working on, and in some cases quite successful in creating treatments on, I realized that here's a tool in the toolbox, which is food, that can complement cancer treatments, but also can be used when you don't need treatments at all, meaning before for prevention and after when you're doing secondary prevention, when you've actually finished all your treatments. Here's the opportunity to really squat on cancer and prevent it from growing. Now, I've been involved with 42 FDA approved drugs and devices over my career. Each of those took, like a decade to actually realize, and
Right.
not everybody can get them, and they're not for everyone. And yet, when I realized the work on food that I was doing was really powerful, the reason I wrote the book is because the discovery on drugs might not be available for years, but it's something about food that I would share with you and your audience in Cancer Box could be put to work right away. So food
Yeah.
has immediacy. And
Yeah.
that's why I wrote the book, because, the biotech books, there's plenty of things out there. They're textbooks for oncologists,
Mm-hmm.
but a book on food is something for everyone. The
Yeah.
patient, the caregiver, the family member, the friend that wants to do something for another friend who's grappling with cancer. That's really why I wrote Eat to Beat Disease.
Got it. All right. Well, I appreciate that answer. Yeah, it's maybe one of the most fundamental, eye-opening things that you get from the book, and it's almost straight from the introduction to really think about, like, a medication. Let's just take Avastin for example, is for a very specific purpose need, and kind of that's it. Sometimes medications you discover kind of off-label uses, but for the most part, a medication is for a thing. And so recognizing how quickly you get into foods being for all diseases, for all goals in health, that you go, okay, I can formulate for myself a diet that hits on so many of my goals, and so many of the ailments that I'm struggling with, that it's really empowering to kind of approach it in that way, to go, okay, yeah, my doctor may recommend some medications, and maybe those fit for my specific circumstance, and I can do all of this. And it's really, really cool to have that experience coming out of reading the book.
Well, I'm excited to hear your response. What I always tell people is that when it comes to food and health,
Mm-hmm.
people are used to thinking about or hearing about the superfood or the super supplement.
Yeah. Yep.
And what I want to tell people is that when it comes to food and health, it's not just about the food. It's also about how your body responds to what you put
Mm.
inside it. And if you understood how your body's health defenses help us resist cancer from the time we're born, then you realize that the foods that we feed it that activate those defenses are working on our behalf. And it's not just one food. It's not really, in fact, there is no true superfood. It's really the body that's pretty super. And there's lots of foods. I write about more than 200 of them that can actually
Yeah.
shore up our health defenses.
Yeah, it's incredible. So you touched on the 5 defenses of the body. We talked about one, and we're going to dive into that in another video, angiogenesis. What are the other 4 that you've identified?
Yeah. Well, so I've actually worked on drug development in every single one of these areas. So
Nice. Yeah.
that's why I'm, these areas are a mile wide, but I'm a mile deep in it. Okay. And so what
Yeah.
was really interesting is that not only is your body has 5 health defense systems. It's and by the way, these health defenses were formed while we were still in our mother's womb.
Hmm.
So, after your mom's egg met your dad's sperm and you were a couple of cells, a ball of cells dividing and developing in your mom's womb, at the same time that your jaw formed, your ears formed, your pancreas formed, your liver and your heart, your brain, your face formed, so too were your health defenses forming inside the body,
Interesting. Yeah.
hardwired. It's the hardware, it's the operating system inside your body. So when we crawled out of the womb, honestly, our health defenses were firing on all cylinders, and they will
Hmm.
continue to fire on all cylinders throughout our lives. So what are they? Angiogenesis, we talked about that. Second one is stem cells. These are our regeneration system. We all have stem cells that we were all made of stem cells in the womb. When we were born, we had extra stem cells left over. It's kind of like a project where you're painting your room, repainting your room, and you have some extra cans of paint at the very end because you don't want to actually run out of paint. What do you
Right.
do when you finish painting the wall? You cap up the extra paint and you put it in your garage, right? For in case you needed to do touch up.
Yep.
That's exactly what the body does with stem cells. We're made out of stem
Interesting.
cells. There's more stem cells than we need because we don't want to be short. Okay. When we're born, it's like finishing the paint job in your room. You take those extra stem cells and you put them in the garage. Now, in the garage in our body is our bone marrow. Okay. So our bone
Okay.
marrow is
Yep.
filled with 70 million extra stem cells. And throughout our lives, when we need them, we repair ourselves. So after surgery for cancer, these stem cells come out to repair whatever it is. If you have a blockage, you need to regenerate parts of your thing. If you actually have radiation and you're zapping a tumor in the liver or in the lung, okay, those healthy organs need to be regenerated. That's what these stem cells actually do. They're part of our defenses. Third health defense is our gut microbiome. Now, much has been made about the gut health and gut microbiome. Many people are talking about it. I will tell you, as a scientist, that we are just beginning to learn about the gut microbiome. So just when you hear other people making it sound like we know everything there is to know about it and you just got to buy these
Sure.
things, I will tell you that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. But man, is our gut bacteria, our health, the ecosystem of our gut bacteria important? For cancer, this gut bacteria lowers inflammation when it's healthy in your body. Very important for a cancer patient. The gut
Yeah, it's
bacteria
interesting.
also talks to our immune system, which lives also in the gut. So most people don't know this. In fact, when I was in med school, we were taught the immune system's in your spleen, it's in your lymph nodes, and it's in your bone marrow. 70% of our immune system lives in our gut. It lives in the
Wow.
wall and in fact, it lives in the wall
Yeah.
of. So think about a jelly roll. The immune system is the jelly in the roll. Now, the gut bacteria is actually in the hollow center of it. So if you were to think about a garden hose you cut in half, the bacteria, sorry, the immune system's in the wall of the garden hose.
Yep.
The bacteria is in the middle. Now, the bacteria can talk to the immune system. And I always tell people the way they communicate is like college students during freshman year living in a dorm with paper thin walls. What do? They shout through the wall to their roommate, to the
Sure.
guy in the room next door to say, "Hey, what do you want in your pizza?" Right? And so
Yeah.
this is what the gut bacteria do to our immune system. When we treat our gut bacteria well, it also helps our immune system seek out and destroy cancer cells. A really important thing we're finding with super complex cancer treatment like immunotherapy, our gut bacteria is important. Oh, more thing, our gut bacteria also uh, 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 helps our brain release social hormones and hormones that control our emotional health.
Okay.
Serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. hormones that allow us to feel like we're in charge of our lives, we're happy.
Mm-hmm.
And by a corollary, if our gut bacteria is not healthy, we now realize that this is one of the factors that we see in depression, schizophrenia, autism,
Interesting.
ADHD. I mean, a lot of these brain issues. So, how does a gut bacteria do this?
Hmm.
I read about it in my book, but essentially, let me tell you this: not only does a gut bacteria pound on the college wall, the paper thin walls to talk to the immune system, but they text message your brain.
Hmm.
Okay. And by texting your brain, they're sending signals through a gigantic nerve that runs from our brain down to our gut called the vagus nerve. And literally the text message, the SMS, goes up through our vagus nerve to our brain, and it tells our brain, hey, release some oxytocin. Now,
Hmm.
why is oxytocin important? Your brain normally releases oxytocin when you see a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, when you get a hug from somebody you love, a
Hmm.
kiss will give you oxytocin. An orgasm causes your brain to release massive amounts of oxytocin for a few seconds. So, gut bacteria do all that in a very important health defense system.
Yeah.
Fourth health defense systems are DNA. We all know that DNA is our genetic code. We also know when it comes to cancer, mutations in our DNA are often at the root of cancers that are actually forming, right? We look for cancer mutations. Well, it turns out if you were to take a look at every cell in your body, and if I could pick out a cell with a really fine piece of forceps, put it into the microscope, okay, open up that cell and pull out your DNA. You know how long that strand of DNA would be from a single cell? 6 feet long. That
Holy cow.
DNA is in a
Yeah.
single cell. Now, the
That's incredible.
protein code for our body, the ones that we worry about for mutations,
Hmm.
only occupies 2% of that 6 feet.
Hmm.
The rest of it, of that DNA, is engineered to help coordinate, like air traffic control, the
Hmm.
functions of your body to protect it. And one of the things that our DNA protects us from is the environment. So we know if you go on a sun tanning bed, you're going to get melanoma. We know if you burn at the beach over and over, you're going to get melanoma. We also know if
Hmm.
you drink too much alcohol, you can get cancer, et cetera, et cetera. But did you know that the same solar radiation, ultraviolet radiation, is coming down on your arm and your face when you're stuck in traffic? So how come we don't actually get skin cancer just driving home, being stuck in traffic, all right, on our commute? And the
Yeah.
reason is because that even though that does cause mutations, your DNA can fix those mistakes. By the way, this will be something really interesting to your listeners and viewers.
Hmm.
You know how many mistakes a typical person's DNA makes every single day? 40
It's a good
trillion
question.
cells. They got to copy themselves. So it's copy,
Yep.
paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, 40 trillion
Yep.
cells. Every mistake can be a potential cancer. Do you know how many mistakes are made every day? Healthy
No
person?
clue. How many?
10,000 mistakes are made every day,
Wow.
every 24 hours. And if it wasn't for our DNA protection system,
Yeah.
okay, to fix those mistakes, men would be in trouble with cancer. So
Yeah.
it's not, why did I get cancer? Why don't I get cancer more often? Because your DNA is going to bat for you. It's fixing all those mistakes all the time. Now, think about the fact that when you are breathing in fumes, off gassing from new carpet, okay,
Hmm.
pumping gas at the station, at the filling station. If you stand downstream, you can smell the gas. You're
Yeah.
breathing in all these solvents that are mutating your DNA in your lung, but you don't get lung cancer after filling up the pump because your DNA defenses are fixing it for you. And then finally, the fifth health defense system is your immune system, which over the last couple of years, of course, we all know how important a good, healthy immune system is.
Hmm.
But immunity is really important for cancer patients because, as it turns out, our immune system is hard at work all the time from the time we were kids to prevent us from getting clinical cancer. So we all form cancers all day long from the time we were kids, and they're just invisible in our body. And the reason, those 40 trillion cells that are dividing, making 10,000 mistakes every single day, one or two of them are going to make it, and they're going to form a little tiny microscopic cancer
Mm.
about the size of a pimple, the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen. They sit
Yep.
somewhere invisible in your body. And just like a pimple, if you saw a pimple on your face while you were in front of the mirror in the morning, you might pay attention to it. But a lot of pimples form in your back and you don't even know they're there.
Hmm.
Same thing as microscopic cancers. Now they're present in our body. Autopsy studies have shown that 40% of women between the ages of 40 and 50 already have microscopic cancers growing in their breast.
Wow. Interesting.
50% of men between 50 and 60 years old have microscopic prostate cancers. And virtually everyone above the age of 70 has a microscopic cancer growing in their thyroid. Most of these cancers are not going to kill them because they're teeny, they're small, they're pimples in the body. And this is where the biology of cancer, for people really at the tip of the spear of the research, cancer is only scary when like, think about it this way. Cancer is like a bear cub, tiny little one, cute, not a big deal, no biggie. Okay. When it's a big growling grizzly, it's going to come get you. Then it's scary. So these tiny little bear cub cancers, these microscopic cancers, they don't have a blood supply. They don't have angiogenesis, so they can't grow. So they just sit there, harmless and unable to do anything bad to your body. They can't invade. They cannot spread. They can't release cytokines. You can't do anything. They're pretty harmless. And then what happens is your immune system, this health defense system, wings by. Okay, these are different cells of our immune system, like they're like super soldiers. Think of the ones that wing by to conduct surveillance, like cops on a beat in a peaceful neighborhood. When they see that microscopic cancer, okay, it looks like a drug dealer sitting on the street corner. Doesn't even have to be dealing drugs, but the immune surveillance the patrol car will stop, okay, will pick that microscopic cancer up, put it in the paddy wagon and drive off with it, okay? We're not letting you stick around. And so microscopic cancers are destroyed all the time by our immune system. So that's why we need to be able to actually shore up our immune system. Last couple of years, everybody's been talking about having a good immune system against COVID. Well, your immune system does protect you against invaders from outside of the body, bacteria and viruses, okay? But, and this is really for your audience, a good, healthy immune system protects us from invaders inside our body. And that's cancer.
Got it. So specifically those like DNA mutations, essentially when DNA fails you, your immune system kicks in. Picks that up.
And your angiogenesis system prevents those cancers from being fed. So you can kind of see now, you're getting it. This is how powerful our body is in protecting ourselves. These 5 health defense systems, there are swashbucklers, okay? They've been protecting us from day one. And so this is why people say, make sure you eat a healthy diet. Because if we actually eat foods that are not good for our health defenses and we take down our health defenses, it's kind of like, you're lowering the shields. And if you eat foods that actually can support and activate your health defenses, now you're raising the shields. Okay, that's an extra layer of Kevlar that we're actually we're wearing, and that can actually make a difference.
Got it. Well, thank you for that summary, and I think we'll stop the conversation there because I want people to go and get a copy of Eat to Beat Disease. There are a ton of great recipes in here, so it goes beyond the science, and it has a lot of the science, has a lot of education that's really helpful, but it goes beyond that to really practical, useful tools, foods that you can include. We actually just ate yesterday. We made the roasted beet and olive salad with orange and mint, which is I don't think it's too far to say it's a bizarre combination of foods that are really unique flavor wise, but do a lot to bring health. So we just had that yesterday, Rachel and I did. So Dr. Lee, thank you so much for being with us. I will put a link to the book down below, as well as a link to your website, where you have a number of master classes that are free for people to kind of interact with you and learn from you, and the many years of research that you've been doing now. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jefferson.